All right, let's see if I've got sound. I see somebody's out there. If you are, let me know in the chat and let me know if you can hear me. I can never really tell. That's the funny thing about starting these lives. You just kind of waiting to see who's going to join, and I always start early, so it's just kind of the way I am. I usually figure I'm up here. I might as well go ahead and start. Well, we got a few out there. So if you're out there, folks, say hi in the chat. Let me know you're here and let me know you can hear me. That's one of the challenges every time I start one of these. I can't really tell whether anybody can hear me or not until you tell me that you can. So, then I always start early. So, as soon as I can get someone to tell me that they're there and that you can hear me, I'll type it in the chat too, just to be sure. Oh, there we go. Tiny NH House. Hi, can read 5x5. Right on. Okay, good deal. Well, first of all, 5:30. I always put it at 5:30. Gives me a few extra minutes if I need them. But for those that are new, I always start early. It's just kind of the way I am. So, and the way we do these, or the way I do these, is you just ask away. Put your questions down below. If I don't have any questions, I'll just start blabbering away on what's going on and what I've been up to, and kind of give you a little bit of update on what's coming on the channel moving forward. So while I'm waiting to see what questions you might have, I was working on the sawmill today on the hydraulics, and the fix that I thought was going to work hasn't worked so far. So for those curious, if you haven't watched previous videos from this summer and the fall, I've been having some hydraulics issues with the mill. And at first we thought, oh, clean everything up, do an oil filter and change. It might be that's all it needs. Didn't sound like the pump. So I did all that. It didn't change anything. And then we diagnosed it with something else, and I replaced that part, and that didn't change anything either. So we're still working on it. But while I'm at it, while filming that, I had an opportunity to do something that I've been trying to do for some time, and you guys might find this interesting. If you've got a Wood-Mizer LT40 or LT40 Super Hydraulic, and you've ever wondered whether or not the super hydraulic was worth it in terms of speed and hydraulic power. Well, there's another fellow that runs a channel called Dusty Ranch, Ben over at Dusty Ranch. Great guy. And he hasn't put out a lot of video lately because he's had some troubles with his mill, brand new mill. He's got an LT35 that he was selling, and you might have seen it on Facebook. He's posted it a few times. Anyway, so what Ben did is he timed his hydraulics, and he asked myself and another channel, I think Dave over at Old Man in the Saw, and maybe Steve at MSD Making Sawdust, asked us to time ours as well. And so I had done that previously, and I just hadn't had an opportunity to have it worked into a video. And then I did it again when I was testing my hydraulics. So in the video that will be coming soon on my hydraulics, there will be a comparison side by side between the super hydraulic and the LT40 standard. And I'll tell you what, if you don't already know the difference, it's big. It's really big. And I didn't realize just how fast the LT40 super hydraulics were. So, Craig, if you're out there, hey, Jerry, nice to see you. But so anyway, I think you might find that interesting. If you're looking at the 40 or the super and you're kind of debating which one to get, I'm telling you, the difference in speed in the raising of the log clamp or moving the log clamp back and forth or the loader arms or whatever was considerable. I haven't done the timing yet. All I've done is I put the video together, and I'm telling you, when it comes to a drag race, that super hydraulic has got me beat by multiple times. Now, I knew it would be faster, so no brainer, right? Everybody knows that. But actually seeing them side by side and having his log clamp, a 2-second clip of it doing its thing with a 5-second clip of mine doing it, that's big. So anyway, so what this is, folks, this is just a Q&A, straight up questions and answers. I'll answer pretty much anything. So you want to know about sawmilling, you want to know about remote milling, you want to know about uh, customer stuff, business side of things, if you want to know about YouTube, whatever, doesn't matter to me, I'll answer it all. If you want to know the latest bourbon I'm drinking, I'll answer that too. Because, folks, it's definitely bourbon 30. So, all right. Mm. But the other thing I've been working on to show you guys is the laser. And I know I've talked about it previously in some of my videos. And hey, Desert Hobo, nice to see you. And I don't remember names very well, guys. So if I only remember the nicks on YouTube here, I'm sorry. I start to get them, but I'm really slow when it comes to names. Faces and that I'm good at, but names associated with nicknames, not so good. So if you've told me, hate to say it. All right, so the laser. Um, so let me back up a little bit. For those that haven't paid attention, if you've watched the way I run my mill, one of the things I do, and I haven't shown it as much in my later videos, but in my earlier videos, you saw it a lot. The way I determine where to make my first cut, and this is something I didn't figure out on my own. I learned it from somebody else on Forestry Forum. Actually, that's like my sawmill school. That's where I learned, other than doing it myself. But the way I do it is I use the scale on the mill, and I just lift the head up, run down to the middle of the log, drop the band on the log, look at the scale. I can see where it's at, pick it up, draw it back, drop 1.5 inches from there, and away you go. Now, is it always 1.5 inches? No. If it's thin bark, might only be 1 inch. If it's really thick bark, might be 2 or 2.5. But what that does is it gives me a really good solid starting point. It's not perfect, but it works really well. And it works big end, small end, doesn't really matter. And the reason is because the center of the log is basically the average height from end to end. So if you come 1.5 inches below that, you're typically going to get at least a 4-inch opening face. And the way I learned to run my mill was to always target an opening face width that I could turn into a board, right? So anyway, that's what I've done, and I've done that for years. And I knew eventually I'd want to get a laser. Well, I did finally get one. Apenex actually sent me one before I blew it up, and a 12 volt to 3.3 volt converter before I blew it up, as well as a mount. And in fact, at one point, it took me so long to get the Wood-Mizer parts that I needed because the LT40 is not like the twin rail mills, like Sawing with Sandy put one of these on. It's a little different on the LT40s. And I decided I would use the Wood-Mizer bracket instead of trying to figure out one of my own. And Wood-Mizers are already rigged to run power. Power is already half run for it. All you got to do is put a switch in and run a wire from your 12 volt converter over to the wire Wood-Mizer provided, and bang, you're up and running. Unfortunately, I blew it all up. Part of that I blame on filming for YouTube. And if you're a YouTuber, you know this. Sometimes you're concentrating more on making the video than you are what you're supposed to be doing. Now, when I run my sawmill on jobs, I'm not doing that because I set my cameras up and I forget about them. I've got a job to do and I just do the job. But when I'm doing maintenance, I tend to try and pay attention to what I'm doing and talk to the camera. So, I'm talking to you and that kind of thing. Well, I blew up the laser. So I had to go get another one. But if you've been on Facebook, you may have seen it on MeWe if you're there, or you would have seen it maybe on my YouTube page. I posted some pictures. I got another one. This one I paid for, and I got some DC converters on Amazon, by the way. And so if you're thinking about going to one of these lasers, I would go this route, I think. I'm still working on them, but they're considerably less and they're adjustable, and I really like that. So the laser's from Apenex, but the converter's not. All right, Clay. Oh, hey, Southern Adirondack. You know what? I got to learn your name and Dean's here. Hey, Dean, thank you. Not Bullet, but you're having a Bullet. I like Bullet. Bullet's good stuff. This is Old Forester, but cheers. uh, and Southern Adirondack Outdoors. I watch your channel, but I've been working so much lately. I've hardly watched any YouTube videos at all. And then I forget names. Terrible. I'm terrible with names, as I mentioned earlier. All right, Clay, should I order an LX55 with BMST 50 sharpener setter, or keep looking for a used LT 15 wide? Being wanting to buy an LT 35 for years, but can't seem to get the cash up to buy one. Okay, this is a great question. So I'm going to answer that with what I can tell you, and I'm going to answer it with a little bit of a story, and tell you my thoughts on it. So first of all, the BMST 50, I'd like to know why you think you need that, because you don't. The only reason I would recommend anybody getting a sharpener is if you do a lot of milling and you've got the time to sharpen and set your blades yourself. Otherwise, I wouldn't understand why you do that. I actually had a great call with Joe Main, who, if you don't know Joe, I know Craig does, some others do. I've known of Joe for at least a decade. I've never talked to him, but I finally did recently. And one of the things, and thank you, Craig, for that. But one of the things that Joe mentioned is that probably the most prolific sawyer I know, a guy that's built who's milled millions of board feet of lumber on on a Woodmiser LT 40 and 70 very long, um, isn't even sharpening his bands right now. He's actually just running through them and stacking them up. Now he will eventually do it when he has time, but the reality is sharpening your own bands takes a lot of time away from what you're doing. So if you're totally stationary, you don't want to buy a lot of bands, I wouldn't buy a sharpener. If you want to buy a lot of bands, here's my thought. Unless you want to do it, okay. But if money's an issue, there's a much better way, and I'll tell you what that way is. And I think that I might just save you a little bit of money. Okay, LX55 versus LT15. Hey, Arrowhead Woodsman, nice to see you, buddy. Um, oh, hey, Joe Main's here. I was just talking about you. So Cold Molson's. Now, New Hampshire, tiny NH has got to be New Hampshire. New Hampshire, Molson's, okay. I mean, I can dig it, but I would think maybe it'd be something on this side of the border, but that's okay. All right. Now, to answer, I'm trying to get back to Clay here. Personally, if it were me, and I was looking to do this from a business standpoint, so in other words, I'm not just doing it for myself in my yard. I would want a trailered sawmill if in any way I can do it. If I wasn't gonna, let's say I'm gonna buy the LT15 on the ground because that's all I can afford, well, I would do that so I could put it on a trailer later. Because from my perspective, there's a couple things that happen. One is you buy the sawmill, you learn how to use it, and all your neighbors are going to want you to drag it over to their house and mill lumber for them. That's how I got started. Okay. I had an LT10. They don't even make trailers for LT10s. I had an LT10 and I ended up putting it on a trailer about 2 years, 2.5, 3 years after I bought it. And I actually started going out and doing jobs with it, believe it or not, on a little LT10. Now the LT10 is kind of the LX25 of yesterday. They replaced the LT10 with the LX25. So LT15 versus LX55. If it were me personally, and I thought I was going to do this for a business purposes, I want to get an LT35 or 40 down the road, I would go with the LT15 on a trailer if possible, or I would get a trailer later, because you're going to drag it out there. You're going to mill logs up for somebody. You're going to earn some of that money that you need to buy that LT35 or LT40. That would be my thoughts there. So I can't tell you what to do, but I would tell you, if it were me, LT15 all the way with the biggest motor I could get on it. And I will tell you that in a sawmill shootout with the LT15 about 10 years ago, around there, Woodmiser did 900 board feet in an hour on an LT15. So that's insane. It's hard to actually believe, but it's true. I've actually seen some video of it. They were rocking and rolling. That machine will do it. It's an awesome little machine. And it will pay for itself and help you get into the bigger mill. That would be my thought. As for the sharpening, I wouldn't do it. And I don't. I bought my first bandsaw mill in 2011, January of 2011. So 12 years ago. I don't have a sharpener. I use Wood-Mizer Resharp, and honestly, it is great. I'm I'm always surprised when guys jump into doing the resharpening themselves when they don't have a lot of bands and they don't use a lot of bands, because I think that's $2,500, $3,000 or whatever they're running today. That's a lot of stuff. I can buy a big chainsaw, I can buy a lot of extra tools, and I can send my bands off to Wood-Mizer and have them do the Resharp program. And Resharp is awesome, guys. And I'm not here to sell. Wood-Mizer doesn't pay me, so don't get me wrong. Um, but I use it for a reason, and here's why. It costs me today about $10 a band for Resharp, okay? But that includes shipping both ways. So I take a box of 15 bands, and I slap a label on it that Wood-Mizer provides me, and I take it to the UPS store, and I drop it off, and I drive away. And anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how busy things are, I get that box back. However, Wood-Mizer doesn't just take those bands, resharpen them, and send them back out to me. They take them, they clean them, they inspect them, then they reset them and sharpen them, or they sharpen them and then reset them. But so they're actually inspecting those bands, and anytime one of the bands is bad, you can opt into a program with Wood-Mizer where they will replace that band at wholesale. So let's think about this. You buy a box of bands, 10 or 15 bands. I used to always only buy 15. Now they can do 10s, I guess. So you got a box of 15 bands, and it costs you, a little bit less to buy 15 than it does to buy 1, 2, or 5 or whatever, right? You send it in and they need to replace one. They're charging you the band cost as if you bought 15. That's a good deal. You can also ask them, and that's you have to opt into that. But there's a couple other things you can opt into as well. And one of them is I've asked them replace all my bands with 1.5 inch 7-degree bands. So if you get a band, it's a 10-degree 1.25 inch, and it's bad, send back a 7-degree 1.5 inch, and they'll do that. It's a great service. So it saves me money. Yes, it's $10 a band, but guys, that's a business expense, and I'm out there and I build my model based on what it costs me to do that. So hope that answered your question. All right, here we go. Let's see if I got any more questions now that I've been blabbering on a while. Is the spreadsheet you have shown that gives you the cant sizes for cutting a cant down with no waste something that you can share? Yes, I could absolutely share that. I will tell you, what I could do, I might be able to put it on my website. I need to get my website fixed. It's kind of half broken right now. It still works, and I got to check my phone, guys. I apologize. Somebody is texting me the heck out of me. Oh, okay. It's not someone that I need to worry about. Sorry. It's just sometimes I've had subscribers that have my number text me and say there's a problem, so it wasn't. But anyway, so all right, back to the question at hand. Spreadsheet availability. If you email me, you can find my email address on YouTube. You can also find it on manlyportablemilling.com. Email me. I'm happy to send it to you. I will tell you that I don't use it anymore. I haven't used it in years. But when I first started on the LT10 and then on the LT40, on the LT10, I built spreadsheets, and I actually had a log to cant size even. So I used to carry a clipboard, and on the clipboard, I had the sheets on the front and the back of the clipboard laminated to it. And one of them was like size of log on the small end and, maximum targetable cant size for a perfectly square cant. And the other one was, heights, widths and heights for a cant. And so why does that matter? Well, I don't use my scale. So you'll see a lot of guys out there that talk about using the scale and how to use the scale. I don't use my scale. I have an LT40. I don't need to use my scale. I have Simple Set, and Simple Set solves that problem for me. But the one thing about Simple Set that it doesn't solve is knowing where to start. And your scale will do that. But I'm not moving my scale because I always talk about, and guys, understand, I'm all about production. I'm all about production. I want to produce the best lumber I can in the shortest period of time I can, because that's what my customer base wants. When somebody calls me up and they say, I got 50 logs, how soon can you get them milled up and how long will it take you? They don't care about board foots. What they care about is, if you show up here on Friday, can we be done on Sunday and have every single log milled up and turned into usable lumber by then? That's what they care about. So I know that when I show up on site, I got one mission and one mission only. Now I do try to film it for you, so I guess I could call that a second mission. But the reality is, in fact, I'm editing a video right now, and this will give you an idea. I'm editing a video right now, and I had to edit in a part of that video where I threw a top of a cookie off of a log, and it hit my camera tripod, and it knocked my main camera, the main camera that I used to film everything, knocked it down. 2 hours later, I figured that out. So you can imagine how much footage I lost from that. So I get up on site, it's mill, get off the site. That's what I do. So I don't have time to mess around with something like loosening up my scale and turning it around or raising it or lowering it. I don't touch it. What I do is I know where to start. And there's two things you can do. You can know where to start, or you can know that you need to correct. It's that simple. Knowing where to start, the ideal way, if you're a production sawyer, to cut a log down is to get the log up on the deck. And if you're cutting dimensional lumber, is to go hooks to the right. Take the slab cut off, roll it 90 degrees, take the slab cut, roll it 90 degrees, take the slab cut it once or twice more to get your separate cants, roll it 90 and knock it to the deck. That's it. That is the fastest way to get a log off the deck. And by the way, because the hooks were swept to the right, the stress in the log is going to cause the wood to face bend, not crown, which most times framing carpenters want wood that face bends and doesn't crown. The only time a crown is acceptable is in rafters and floor joists. And as long as they tell you, and if somebody says they want 2x12s, you can pretty much bet that they want crowns, or they don't care if they're crowns, one or the other, right? Face bends are better, but if they got crowns, are okay on rafters and floor. I used to frame, so I can tell you that's where I get that from. So I will send you the spreadsheet, and it does. It starts at the top height, 11 3/8 of an inch, and when you make the last cut, there's no waste. It's bang, 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 done. Walk away. So I can absolutely send that to you, and I can create others. What I did with mine is, and here's the challenge, and one of the reasons I don't use the spreadsheet anymore is that I don't just mill dimensional. I don't just mill dimensional plus an eighth or dimensional plus a quarter or full nominal height and width minus an eighth or full nominal height and width, period. And nominal, by the way, is the full dimension, not what you buy in the store. What you buy in the store, that's called dimensional. Some guys get those mixed up. Nominal is the actual, what you saw to, if you're in a big production mill and you're going to dry it and surface it 4 sides. Well, it's what they used to saw it to. They don't even do that anymore, but that's full dimension, is in 2 inches by 4 inches. Dimensional would be 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches, but you never mill 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. There would be no reason to do that. You can mill a 1/16 over in thickness on spruce pine fir. That's okay, because national standards say it'll shrink about a 1/16 of an inch in drying. You could get away with that. It won't be surfaced. That's okay. I go an 1/8 of an inch over every time I can. So if the customer asks me what I would do, I'll tell them 1 5/8 by 3 5/8, right? But I've had customers that say, yeah, I want 1 3/4 by 7 3/8. Okay. If that's what you want, that's what I'm going to mill. And that's the other thing that I do. I'll do whatever the customer wants. So in an upcoming video that I'm editing right now, you're going to see me set up to go take another cut. And then the customer's going to wave his hands in the air and catch my attention, actually, after I go up and start looking at things. And I'm just ready to, I think I even hit the auto clutch, and I'm ready to dive into that log. And he got my attention, and I stopped. I pulled back. This is after a discussion. I was going to cut what he wanted. And he said, I changed my mind. I want to pull it off the way it is. And that's okay. That's what I do. So if a customer wants me to cut 2 3/8 by 4 1/16, that's what I'll give them, as long as he understands there's shrinkage that's going to be involved, and it's rough cut. It is not surfaced 4 sides. As long as they understand that, I'll cut whatever you want, because you're paying me to do it, and I charge by the hour. It's a good business to be in, guys. All right. let me see if I got any other questions here, because I've kind of rambled on those two quite a bit. Let's see. When milling today, okay, straight lines. Here we go. When milling today, I had straight lines down both sides, but the middle was wavy. Any idea why that happened, and how can I know How can I know it is happening? Okay, so first of all, Dean, LT35, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see. Oh, Arrowhead, damn it, you gotta go. Sorry, if I missed you, I apologize, buddy. Hit me up on MeWe. Okay, so Dean, let's see. That's a name I'm remembering. You notice, you guys, you notice I'm remembering this name. I'm terrible with names. I will remember his name. If you haven't known, and I usually try to thank guys, occasionally guys will do some really awesome things. They'll do like super chat, super thanks, super stickers. Dean's done that a few times. So I'm not going to forget Dean. Sorry. What can I say? All right, Dean, here we go. So I need to understand fully what you're saying. So when you were milling, you had straight lines down both sides. So I'm assuming you mean you cut the top, it was flat. You rolled it, you cut it, it was flat. And then you dove down into the middle to split the cant, and it was wavy. If that's what you're saying, I'd need to know a little bit more. One would be, how wide was the cut and how big was the cant? Was it a 12 by 12 cant, an 18 by 18 cant? That helps me understand what's going on. I'd like to know how many hours on the mill and when was the last time somebody tightened up the drive belts. I will tell you that the number one reason people cut waves, particularly, well, I think in anything, but I will definitely say in softwoods, but and that's what I do most of the time. But Dean, thank you. So 90% of the time, if not more, it's drive belt tension that gets you. It can be a band that's getting dull. I can do that. It could be too fast, traveling too fast in the log. And it also could be big knots, so you're traveling too fast. You're not slowing down the knots. But typically, the number one cause, drive belt tension. So LT40, awesome. I'm assuming 26 and a half horse or more powerful. That helps too. Inch and a quarter bands or inch and a half. I'm guessing inch and a quarters on a 26 and a half, but I'll try to remember next time. So what I need to know is really the width of cut, because that's another one that guys tend to forget about, right? I've gone into a log cutting 6-inch cuts, flat as a board, bang, gone into an 18-inch or 20-inch cut, and it starts to wave out on me. I know right away my drive belt tension's weak. And I'll check it, and lo and behold, I'm sitting at 12 and a half pounds, and that ain't enough. So, maple, okay. That means a difference. 12 inches wide and already a cant. Yep. Oh, 36 horse diesel. Nice. Okay, you got the big motor. That can handle that, no problem. Hopefully inch and a half bands then. But 12 inches, I'm going to tell you, I'm guessing that on a 12-inch cant, already cut, everything is flat, you split the cant, and it starts to wave out, especially with that much horsepower. I would I would tell you right now, check your drive belt tension. Absolutely. How many hours on the mill and how many hours since the last time you checked it? If it's a new mill, typically within 20 hours, that starts to happen. After that, when you do it, maybe 50-ish the second time around. After that's about every 100 plus hours. But that would be the first thing I check. So, all right, what else we got? Tell me some more about the maple you're cutting, and if it was splitting the cant or if it was another cut. Gotta love Old Forester. And the funny thing is, I don't drink Old Forester because I run a sawmill and I love my cabin in the woods. The truth is that I used to be a Jack Daniels drinker. Then I quit Jack and I went to just regular, real bourbons, is what I call them, actual Kentucky bourbons. Nothing wrong with Jack, but I found one called Evan Williams that's considerably cheaper and I think almost as good. But I was heading to the cabin one day and I stopped in a Safeway in Omak, Washington. It's way up north in the Okanagan area. A lot of orchards up there, apple growers and whatnot. And it's I'm probably 40 miles south of the Canadian border right there. And I pulled into a Safeway, went in to go find some bourbon, and they didn't have any Evan, which was what I was drinking at the time. And not right then in the store, but and they had this bottle down there, Old Forester, and it was $19, and it was cheap. And I thought, I wonder how it might be good, right? Well, that was probably 10 years ago or close to it. And I thought, wow, this stuff is good. It's not it's not expensive. And it's really good stuff. And as some of you know, Desert Hobo knows from the last session, I was drinking some Old Forester Statesman. Oh, that stuff is good. Now it's expensive, but it's good. Expensive for me is 50, $60 a bottle, by the way. But all right, okay, let's see. What do we got here? 36 horse, 120 hours. Okay. Yeah, if you've got 120 hours and you haven't done the drive belt tension since the 20-hour mark, and I bet you did it at 20 hours because honestly, about 20 hours on a new mill, they've got to be done. So I would absolutely do that. Now, the diesel, that's a diesel. Yeah, the diesels have a higher tension than the gas motors. Like mine, I think they rated at 13 and a half pounds. I want to say the diesels might even be up around 17 pounds. So be sure to look in your book. If you don't have the book for some reason, ping me offline. You can email me. You could catch me on Facebook, or MeWe's also a good place. Just ping me offline if you don't have the book. I'll help you out. I've got one. I'm happy to copy pages or give you pound tensions or whatever you need. And I am going to do a video, guys, on doing dry belt tension. I tried to do it on a job. I had a job this summer that I filmed for you guys. So if you remember when I was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, there was a gal in shorts and cowboy boots. That was Teresa. And Teresa and her husband, I want to say Sean. Yes, I think it was Sean. Anyway, so, and bad with names. But if you remember those videos up there, I was milling a lot of beams for them. I actually had to do that dry belt tension right there on the job site. And I tried to film it, but it's really hard to film doing that. I've got another camera now, though, and I'm going to get another one, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to film it so that you can actually see how that's done. It's almost a little bit of art. And if you run a mill a while, you know that, right? So, all right, what do we got here? Do we have a pencil type dry belt tension gauge? Oh, Andy's asking you, Dean. So good question, Andy. So if you don't have that gauge, Dean, let us know, because you do need it looks like a steel pencil. It comes from Wood-Mizer in a plastic tube, a couple caps on the ends, and you should have some black tape on it already and some O-rings on it. If you don't, let us know. We can help you out with that. Yep, you got it in 18 pounds. Okay, so you're set. You know what it needs. I will bet you, I'll tell you what, Dean, I will bet you an old Jarhead sticker that's what your problem is. So if I'm wrong, I'll send you a sticker. If I'm right, I'll send you a sticker. What the hell? All right, let's go. Let's see where we're at here. I'm about to pull the trigger on a WM 126 with 14 horse engine. It fits in my budget. Planning to timber frame 2 picnic shelters. Any experience with milling black? Yes, lots. Black locust, awesome wood, super hard. The hardest hardwood in North America. A lot of guys don't know that. Black locust not only is the hardest hardwood in North America, it also has certain anti it's like pre-treated wood almost. My brain isn't working right now. I know somebody just popped up. Joe Main, thanks, Greg. Really appreciate it. Oh, guys, I can't watch the chat all the time, but okay. Back to your question. So 14 horse motor, yeah, you can do it. It's going to be slow. Black locust is very hard, but you can do it. I've done it with 10-degree bands. I will tell you, if you've got an N100 respirator, wear it. If you're milling a lot of black locust, I honestly recommend wearing a respirator. If you go back in my videos, you'll see some videos where I still had my umbrella, particularly one where the umbrella falls over. And then afterwards, there's a video where I'm replacing a control panel on the head of my mill. You'll notice my voice is shot, and I lost my voice for almost a week. I wear like a neck scarf type thing. I hate wearing respirators, and when it's hot, I'm working hard. They're just terrible. I hate wearing them. And I didn't have it with me, or I would have worn it probably then anyway. But when you run black locust, it's worse than black walnut. because black walnut sawdust can be pretty tough too. But with black locust, it tore up my throat. It's tough. So I've milled lots of it. Beautiful wood, super hard. You got to take it slow and protect your lungs because it's tough. All right, let's see. A lot of it on your property. You're lucky. That's awesome wood. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I'll tell you. Once you cut into some black locust, you're going to see there's some gorgeous stuff in there. Desert Hobo, it was waving up and down and in the middle. You guys are, Dean, what is the true wave rising? Oh, or was it more like it? Yeah, yeah. If you're waving up and down in the middle, as long as you're talking all the way across the cant, I would check that for sure. Craig, hey, buddy, there you are. Let's see. I made it inside finally. Awesome. We doing this weekly? No, I'm not doing it weekly. You haven't asked me for my address. Yes, I know. I need to get your address, by the way, and I keep telling myself, trying to remind myself to ask you. So thank you for reminding me. Send me your address. You could do it on Facebook. For those that don't know, Craig won a little question thing I had going. I'm sending him a sticker. All right. Hey, Evan, nice to see you, buddy. Let's see. Could you tell us a little bit about the difference between 1 1/4 inch bands versus 1 1/2 inch bands? Yes, absolutely. So first of all, if you have an LT40 and bigger, then you can run 1.5 inch bands without doing anything. If you have an LT15 or an LT35, in theory, you could run them. I've been told by some they do. However, they will be difficult to change at best, and at worst could be problematic for you. So the LT15 and the LT35 are not designed to run 1.5 inch bands. So if you've got the 1.5 inch, let me know. If not, if you got an LT40, then the big difference is, well, wow, where do I start? Honestly, had I known back in 2016, end of 2015, when I bought my LT40, had I known what I know today, I wouldn't have even bothered with 1 1/4 bands. 1.5 inches cut flatter, they last longer. You could run nice 7 degrees. I've run 739s and 747s. And though I think with a bigger motor like the 36, 38 horse motors, you could really push them really well and see the differences in them. I don't see as much a difference between the standard 7 degree versus 739 or 747. I do think the 739 is a better band though. But they cut flatter. They cut flatter across and they cut flatter down the log. And by the way, folks, you will find this. If you're cutting wide, you're cutting 20, 24 inches wide, and you're running 1 1/4 inch band, 10-degree band, I guarantee you're going to see a rise in the center of the cut. I don't care how tight your band tension is. I don't care how good your drive belt tension is. I don't care how slow you're going. You're going to see it rise in the center of the cant. I did everything I could for years to try and stop that. It was just not something that I could stop. I went to 7 degrees. It was a big improvement. Guess what? 4-degree bands, flat all the way across, especially with 1.5 inch. So if you can't run 1.5 inch, I really seriously recommend trying out some 7s. And for wide stuff, try 4s. I think you'll like them. Let's see. And thank you for the compliment on the channel there, Evan. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. Better than pressure treated. Yes. Black locust can absolutely be better than pressure treated. It's amazing. It's natural. And ranchers used to love it for fence posts. So, because it lasts so long. Now, up here, they typically would use tamarack for that. It also has kind of a similar property, but it's a softwood. But black locust it's great stuff. When I'm turning logs, the claw catches the log in the middle and pushes the log up and does not turn the log. Am I doing something wrong? Okay, Dean. So when this happens, 9 times out of 10, if you go to try to roll a log and it lifts one end to the other, that's because the log isn't centered on the log roller most often. And what I find too is if you've left your swing out bunks out like they should be when you loaded it, then one of the best things you can do, lift that log up, bring those swing out bunks back underneath it and drop her back down and try to roll it then. If you're having trouble rolling it, there's a trick that I use that you might try. So what you do is you get your log clamp and you start rolling that log up. And of course, it starts lifting that end, right? Or not your log clamp, sorry, your log roller. So you're rolling the log with the log roller. And you actually will see me do this in some of the videos up on Badger Mountain. Badger Mountain, I think it was. Usually in the little red, there's a little red kind of shop barn thing in the video you can see a lot. So you might see me doing it there. And one of the things I did there was, or that I show you there, is once you get that log turner up and the log starts to lift, you take your log clamp flat down all the way down, you roll it all the way into the end, lift it up, and then twist the log back at the same time. So what happens is that your log clamp running backwards runs into the log. It causes the bottom of the log to want to move, but you've got your log turner up top and the whole thing will start to turn. It's just a little trick you can use. Essentially, log clamp backwards, roller this way. You can't run them at the same time, but you can set one up nice and tight and then start to run this one and then push, and away it goes. And it's usually because it's just physics, right? It's trying to load or trying to roll too far down the log. That's all. You can, of course, lift it up on the toe boards and use a magic hook and pull the log back or forth and get it centered. But I would only do that if I can't use my little log clamp trip to kind of force it to roll. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'd have to try to find the videos, but it's a video series where the camper's right behind the mill. There's a red building in the front, and you'll see me doing it in some of those big logs. I was milling some 20, 21 footers, and you'll see me doing it there. So, all right, where are we at here? Let's see. Respirator. Okay, let's see. I have ordered 1.5-inch bands based on my recommendation. Look forward to try. Dean, you're gonna love them. I'm telling you right now. And I don't know where you're at, Dean, but I'll tell you something. I just learned something recently. So Joe Main is on here with us right now. Now understand, Joe doesn't sponsor me, and I've actually never bought anything from Joe before. So just so you know, I'm telling you this for a reason, though. I've known about Joe a long time because I've been on a forum called Forestry Forum, and I talked to guys on there. Oh, wow, Dean, thank you. You're awesome. Wisconsin. Okay, you're going to want to hear this. Listen, there's a guy down in Georgia. His name's Joe Main. He's in the forums with it right here, right now, or in the chat with you right now. So Joe, I've known about him a long time because there's guys on the forestry forum that have milled millions of board feet of lumber. They all use the bands that they get from Joe. It's not that Wood-Mizer bands are bad. In fact, Joe actually sells Wood-Mizer bands too, or makes them for Wood-Mizer or something like that. I haven't talked to him enough to really know, but what I do know is he makes the best welds of anybody in a band on the bands that he makes himself. And his bands are awesome. And I just found out that he ships free throughout the U.S. I never got bands from him because it's 3,500 miles from me before. So I always thought, well, 3,500 miles of shipping would kill me. I just found out it's free in 48 contiguous states. So if you're looking for bands, I'm telling you, talk to Joe. But if you've got some 1.5-inch, especially with that big motor you got, you will love them. You will thank me. Trust me on that. They're absolutely better to run. Now, if you've got 1.25-inch, you do not have to do anything to run 1.5-inch. Okay. I know a lot of guys will say, oh, you got to adjust this, you got to adjust that. No, you do not. If you've got an LT40 or bigger and you started out on 1.25-inch, you can run the 1.5-inch bands. What you can do, though, is once you run through all those 1.25-inch and you've sharpened them all the times you can get them sharpened, you can replace them with 1.5-inch and then change out your guide wheels. That would be the best thing to do. But you don't have to change the guide wheels out to run 1.5-inch. You just get more benefit by having the bigger guide wheels for 1.5-inch bands. So in other words, there's 2 stages. Start running 1.5-inch. You'll be happy. When you only have 1.5-inch, go to the bigger guide wheel bearings. You'll be even happier. So there you go. All right, what else we got? Dan Houdini. Hey, nice to see you. All right. Let's see. That was a really strange way of saying you need a chain turner. Oh, Desert Hobo, I wish I could remember your name. I'm terrible with names, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think, but you're right. And I've joked a lot that Wood-Mizer needs to make an LT45 because they could put a chain turner on an LT40 super hydraulic, so I'd still have my side supports that flip up, because then I'd have the best of both worlds. I don't want straight up and down side supports. And I know Craig, the Kilted Sawyer on here, he'll tell you that you might be able to use the inner side supports to do that. But I like being able to use a magic hook. I go to remote, I only mill in remote locations, guys. I don't mill anywhere around my house right here, except for one log one time. That's it. And the log was about that long. I mean, I don't mill here. I live in the town of Pasco. I'm kind of where it used to be county. Now it's in the city, but it's semi-rural. But it's just not an area that I want to run my mill. Now I do have 20 acres up north where the cabin is, and that cabin, you see those cabin videos? Guess what? That's where I cut my teeth milling. It was to finish that cabin. I started it with store-bought lumber, finished it with the sawmill. And that'll be part of an upcoming video on how I paid for my mill in 13 months. So for those of you that have asked me to do that, I am going to do it. And yes, you could pay for a mill today in 13 months too, I think. Absolutely. It's tough. You can do it though. So anyway, I'm working on that video. It's going to take me a little while to get to it. So let's see. Kilted Sawyer, that's Craig. Let's see. I just got 4 boxes in no time from Joe. Love the double hards. Yes, I run double hards. Absolutely. You can on the 50 if you have all 4 arms hydraulic. Oh, I see. So what Craig is saying, he's got an LT40 and an LT50. What he's saying is the center 2 side supports, and that's what they're called, by the way. They're actually called side supports. That if you run those hydraulic, then they still lift up and down, just like the 40s do. And then the outer ones go straight up and down instead of swinging up and down. It's good to know because it kind of points towards, I don't know. It's tough. I've been asked many times if I'd go to a 50 or a 70, and I always say 40 super, I think, is probably where I would draw the line. Maybe 50, but the thing is I haul my mill into crazy remote locations, and so light is good. Smaller the better, but not too small. So the 40 is like that perfect range, but tough. It's got to be tough, and the 40 is. Is the 50 much heavier? Would it make much difference hauling it into some of the locations I go to? Probably not, and maybe I'd go that route. I'm not sure. All right, on my recommendation, I ordered 7-degree bands and also a few 10s because they were free shipping. And once I have enough compiled, I'm going to get on the Resharp program. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you. I'm telling you right now, you're going to love those 7s. I don't make a dime from anybody selling bands, guys. I don't. Wood-Mizer doesn't pay me to tell you anything. Nobody else does. Joe doesn't. Nobody does. But you're going to love 7s. And I don't know what to tell you. It's crazy. I was at Wood-Mizer. If you watch my video where I did the Q&A with Wood-Mizer and they show me how to coil a band, which I don't do at all, but I did that for my subs. You guys, you wanted to see how to do that, so I did it. But when I was there, I asked them what was the most common band that they did, and they said 10 degrees, hands down 10 degrees. And I thought, really? Why? And they said, honestly, it's like our utility band. It kind of works on everything, sort of. It's like the band of all trades. The problem is it'll work on everything, but it won't work great on everything. In fact, I would say it won't work great on anything. The 7s are faster, flatter, better bands, and also the 4s. 739s, 747s, they're all better bands. The 10s is what they start with, and they're fine. They're perfectly fine. And I would say if all you ever do is mill up the 1 or 2 logs now and then at home, 10s are fine. You probably don't even need more than 10 or 15 bands. But if you plan on going out and making a bit of a living, even part-time running the sawmill, you need lots of bands, and you need bands that are going to last, cut flat, and cut fast. And 7s are going to be better. I know that Craig Kilted Sawyer on here, he's milled at least as much as I have. I know some of the other guys, Desert Hobo, I think you have. There's several guys on here that are in the Wood-Mizer 100,000 board foot club. Maybe some approaching the million board foot club. I'm not. I'm well into the 100,000 plus, but I'm not at a million yet. Not even close. I've got a ways to go. I don't mill as much as some though, right? If I milled as much as I did in 16, 17, 18 time frame, I probably would be pretty close to a million now, but I did take a few years where I slacked off quite a bit. So But I'll tell you, you're going to find that sevens is what you're going to want. And resharp is the way to go. And from my perspective, I don't have to buy a band resharpener. I don't need to do that. I don't need to set my own bands. I just send them off, and I use flat boxes. And so in the videos, you kind of, if you watch that video where I talk to Wood Miser, I mention it there because I am 100% remote. That means I've got a camper in my bed of my truck. I've got nowhere to put anything. So I've got to try to pack as much as I can in the back seat area of my pickup and on the mill. So flat boxes work really well. I stack them up against the seat, and then I can put my compressor and toolbox and whatever else in front of them and put a few things on the mill itself and some stuff in the camper, and away I go. So flat boxes work good for me. And they're also easier to ship. And I'll tell you a little secret. Wood Miser uses the coil boxes, but they get beat to crap. They pointed it out to me when I was there. They were like, you wouldn't believe how many boxes we have to replace. Whereas the flat boxes, they don't have to replace them as often. They last longer. So just kind of a little thing that I can tell you. So you don't have to coil bands. If you don't want to, you don't have to. All right. Let's see. I cut maple today, 5/4, and added an 1/8. Am I supposed to add that for hardwood? Well, Dean, you're not supposed to add anything. So here's something I always say, right? You do what you want to do. Are you cutting it for yourself? Or are you cutting it for someone else? If you're cutting it to sell, normally if you're using the hardwood scale, I bet if you go measure it at 5/4, you're going to find it's 5/4 and an 1/8. I don't use the scale, and it's been a long time since I've even measured it or looked at it or talked about it, frankly, because I just use my simple set. But typically 5/4 for hardwood is actually an 1/8 over 5/4. 5/4 for softwoods isn't actually something you really say, but you could, and it's exact. So that would be a difference. Let's see. Joe's website. Honestly, what I would tell you to get a hold of Joe, if you're on Facebook, and you go on my Facebook page, there's a link right there that I put to his website, and you have to go back to the about section to get his number. If you just send a message to Joe on Facebook, he'll give you his number. He'll take care of you. Let's see. I love my 10 degree and I mill for a living and I sharpen to set my own. Well, Craig, that's I know guys that they love them. There's 10 works. It's the utility blade. It works. It'll cut anything you want it to cut. I've cut black locust with 10 degree bands. But when I cut with sevens, night and day, much better band. And when I cut with fours on wide stuff, flat as a board. And I've got fours, 747s, 739s, sevens, 10s, 9s, and 10 bimetals. And by the time I use up these bands, I will only have 10 degree bimetals, about 10 or 15 of those. And the rest will be sevens and fours. I'll probably have some 747s and 739s until I don't, but I like the 739s a lot. I'm just not right now ready to switch to that. I think the sevens is all I need, frankly. But I'm getting rid of all my 10s except for bimetals. And if they made a 7 degree bimetal band, then I would get rid of all my 10s. So for what it's worth, and my 9s too. I bought the 9s to try them out. Supposedly they're for frozen logs. And I got to tell you, I didn't see any difference at all. Cut frozen logs with any band I've got, it seems to work fine. So now I don't live up in where it's 40 below, but it's gotten down to 20 below at my cabin. So should be cold enough to freeze some logs, and I didn't have any problem at all. So I never cut a log that was like an ice cube though. Maybe then the 9s or the 7s would have been better. Simple set. So it was 43 and an 1/8 is what I cut. Oh, I used my simple set. So it was 43 and an 1/8. I'm confused. Do you mean 4/4 and 3/8? Yes. On the simple set. Help me. I think that's a typo. I'm guessing you mean that you were cutting 5/4, and so you had 4/4, which is 1 inch, and then you added 3/8 to that. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, what that would do on your simple set is that would leave you at 5/4. That's fine. Um, it depends on what you're doing with it. You can cut it at 5/4. You can cut it at 6/4. You can cut it at whatever. It depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to sell it, you just have to realize that with hard, and I'm not a hardwood guy. So full disclosure, 90% of what I mill, probably better than 90% softwoods, right? I'm a production softwood sawyer, really, but I've done hardwoods. But I talked to a lot of guys about hardwoods, and in fact, here's what I'm going to tell you. There's a YouTube channel out there called Hobby Hardwoods Alabama. If you want to know about hardwood sawing, I would tell you to go talk to Robert. Watch his channel, and I would also get on forestry forum. If you're not, I know I say it all the time, but I'll tell you, it's one of the best places you can actually go. It's not like Facebook. You can search threads. You can, and trust me, you'll those guys on there that have milled millions of board feet of lumber, they will help you out too. And that's actually why I do this, because they helped me so much. I wanted to give back, so I started making videos to help and give back. Right, and so that's a lot to do with what I'm doing. But in the end, on hardwoods, you're looking at shrinkage. So if you wanted a 5/4 thick board after it's fully dry, then you would have to mill it over, and I would say at least 1/8 of an inch. Most guys mill 5/4 because they plan to get down to 3/4 of an inch or to 1 inch boards when they're done. They figure there's going to be shrinkage, and then they're going to plane it and join it, because especially hardwoods with a lot of grain patterns can move a lot. So if you've seen the video on my countertop, that's out there, or my coffee table, those were all milled at 9/4, and so that's 2¼ inches, and that's what I milled them at. Then I planed those down after they were completely dried, which I air dried them. I didn't kiln dry them, but I air dried them. Although I did kind of do like a sort of solar kiln with them, kind of a greenhouse kiln idea that I used that worked pretty well. But I ended up planing them down to 1¼ inch by the time I used them. So I took an inch, almost an inch off after they dried, probably 7/8 of an inch by the time, and I planed that off because there was so much movement in the wood, and that was with weight. I've been stacking and stickering lumber for years, never had any problem with my softwoods. Put that walnut that I milled up, and it was really gnarly stuff, beautiful grains, but it was gnarly. It moved a lot. And so by the time I planed it down, I took an inch out of it. So just kind of know that's one of the reasons you mill so much over, I think, too. But all right, here we go. Let's see what else we got. We will agree on the bimetal. They are tough. Yes, I've got those from Joe. Yeah, the bimetals, I've actually cut through like 3 or 4 nails in a row with a bimetal band and actually finished the cut. Then I swap the band out, because I will not cut again. You cut a nail, pull the band off. The only difference between when I pull the band off is if it's going to dive or rise or keeps going. And bimetals, I've actually had them go right through. So, Dean, awesome, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Dean's the man here tonight. He's the one throwing out the super stickers. So thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Any questions you've got, I'm going to answer them. Let's see. Bimetals. Yes, good. 5/4 is a safe bet. There you go. Desert Hobo leaves a lot of room for planing. Yep, I agree. And the whole thing about the 1/8 over knot, again, the reason I kind of hem and haw a little on that is because I don't know what you're doing with it. Tell me what you're doing with it. That would help. But again, there's a guy out there, and he's on forestry forum. I've always known him as Yellowhammer. So if you've ever heard me say Yellowhammer, you ever seen me type it somewhere or anything like that, it's because forestry forum, that's his name on forestry forum. Kind of like the cowboy Jake Dean. He's Custom Sawyer on YouTube. To me, he's been Custom Sawyer for a long time, although I've known it was Jake Dean. But anyway, so Robert over at Hobby Hardwoods, that guy, he's like an artist when it comes to hardwoods. He knows more about milling hardwoods than anybody I've ever met. The guy's amazing. He's brilliant. It's milling for hardwood. It is different, by the way. So in a recent video, I kind of talk about the differences. So, wow, Eddie, thank you, buddy. Hey, if you've got any questions, throw them out there. I really appreciate that. But anyway, so check out Hobby Hardwoods, Alabama. Tell him I sent you over there. Uh, I've 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 learned a lot from him on forestry forum, as well as Jake and Peter Druin. And if you've heard me talk about Magic Man's like me. He does 100% mobile. That's all he does. He's also milled over 2 million board feet. So when you hear me talk about Magic Man, the magic hook, that's not mine. That's Magic Man's. He's the one that came up with that, not me. That's why we call it the magic hook. Well, those are the guys that really helped me out. When I started out with my LT10, man, I had been chainsaw milling, and they actually helped me with the chainsaw milling too. And I was milling with the chainsaw. I got the LT10. I started milling with that. I was splitting the pith. I was doing all kinds of crazy things. But I was milling ponderosa pine. And if you haven't milled ponderosa pine, I have to tell you, it's one of the most forgiving woods there is to mill. It's crazy. I love it. But come on, everybody's got to learn, right? So I was learning from those guys. I would mill something up and go, look what I've done. Now what do I do with it? And those were the guys that helped me figure it all out. Then when I got the LT40, it was them again. And in fact, I'll tell you a little secret. This I've never shared this before. Besides the grandsons, the only other thing that got me doing YouTube was because I would film what I was doing on my LT40 when I got it brand new, and then I would post it on Forestry Forum to talk about it with those guys so that they could help me out. And they're willing to teach you. And that's how it really got started. I would film milling, and then I would go talk to them about ways I could improve that. And that's just kind of my personality. I'm one of those guys that you tell me that I could do something better, I'm going to try it and see if it works or not. And I've done it with a lot of my subs. I've had subs. It was one of my subscribers. Honestly, I hate to admit that I don't remember who. It could have been Desert Hobo, maybe. I'm thinking it could have been you. One of you said to me when I was milling a monster ponderosa about year and a half ago, I called it Logzilla. It was like 32, 34 inches in diameter, 17 feet long, weighed 4,700 pounds, and my mill couldn't even lift it up. We had to use a forklift with a tree saver and a chain to lift it while I lifted my hydraulics together to get it up on the deck. And once we got it on the deck, we couldn't even turn it. The mill didn't want to turn it. I had to have two guys hang off the end of a log ride cant hook. That's another one you see me talk about. Log ride doesn't sponsor me, guys, but I've done stuff with my log ride cant hooks that would have broken every one of my wooden ones. They're terrible. And I gave my wooden cant hook away, and it eventually broke for that guy again a couple times. So they threw it off to the side up there at Badger Mountain, the Red Barn videos up there. Well, that customer, I gave him that cant hook, and I've used it a couple times since. It falls apart every time. But so anyway, it was one of you told me try those bimetals out on those big 6 and 8 inch ponderosa pine knots. Well, guess what? After that, I finally got a chance to do it on another big gnarly old ponderosa. Bimetals were great. I would say the 747s and the bimetal 10s both were about the same on the big knots. Both did excellent. So bimetals, 2 thumbs up for those, even though they are 10 degree. All right, Eddie. Yeah, Logzilla. I bet it was you, Desert. I'm thinking it was you. Logzilla was awesome. All right. Let's see. Craig's buddy. Do we know each other? Wait, let's see. Kilted Sword Joe, send him a calendar for his wall next time live. Yeah, actually, I've been thinking about that. It's really funny. I see guys that have sawmills. They just bought them. They're not YouTubers or anything like that. And they've got big wood miser flags up. And I always think, do you know how many mills I've probably sold for wood miser, and I don't even have a wood miser flag? But I will tell you, Darcy does have a wood miser jacket. So, and wood miser has given me some hats to give away. I gave away, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 hats when I hit 1,000 subscribers, which, by the way, when I get to 10,000 subscribers, I want to do a giveaway. And the economy's getting a little tough, so I've not had as good. Usually I can get some items from folks, like when I gave away the log right cant hook. That was awesome. And I gave away wood miser hats and the model of the LT40. That was really awesome. And I haven't hit them up, but 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway, and it might just be old Jarhead's merch, but I will do some for sure. And I'll look and see if I can't get something else out there for you guys, because I think I should do that. And for those that don't know why I'm doing a giveaway or why I would, it's to thank you, because I wouldn't be here if you weren't here. So that's the truth. And it's kind of funny because guys sometimes ask, why do you do this? I mean, I make like $2 or $3 a day from YouTube now that I'm monetized, and I've got almost 10,000 subscribers. And you think, you're not getting rich doing this, but I do it because I enjoy it. I just like to try to help you guys out, and I enjoy it. I love sawmilling. All right, tomorrow will not be. No, I actually think it's going to take a little while now, Desert. I'm at 9409, I think, right now, and I'm going to bet you it's going to be a while. And I'm wondering if anybody on here knows. Craig might, if Wilson Forest Lands, if he was on here, he would know. Two Brothers Outdoors, they would probably know, because we've talked about it. And those are other YouTube channels. If you don't know about them, check them out. They're good guys. I talked to a lot of those guys. They're all awesome guys. Nathan over at Out of the Woods Sawmill, he's a great guy. Jason over at Northwest Sawyer, another great guy. They're all great guys. And it's just like a community, right? And but I will tell you, YouTube Shorts gave me a lot of subscribers. But here's the truth. You guys are here for the longs and what I can do in my long form videos. And I find that I did shorts because YouTube was really pushing them. And I was going back to work. And so I thought, well, I'm going back to work. I can't do the videos as much as I wanted to. So I would do shorts to kind of fill in the space. And it was great. It was easy. It was fast. I didn't really like the remix style of short, which is where you see it down below. It says created by. Those are remixes from long form videos. And if you click that created by, you can go watch the long form video. And I thought, well, that might be a way to get people to watch. The truth is that I've had almost 6 million people watch one of those. Of them, about 2,000 went and watched the long form video. So that's kind of nice. But most of them have a very short attention span, like 15 seconds is about their attention span. So if you make YouTube videos that are 16 minutes long and people only watch 15 seconds of them, YouTube's not going to share your videos around. So anyway, long and the short of it is, I'm not doing shorts anymore. If I was doing shorts, I could hit 10,000 very, very quickly. So you're right. Tomorrow could be it. Hey, Caper Country, nice to see you. Did you ever get your sticker? I've been meaning to ask you if you sent in a sticker all the way to Nova Scotia and then not hearing whether you got it or not. I was thinking, gosh, did it ever make it? So back during the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, I'm pretty sure it was you that got the Angry Gnome sticker. Yes, you did. Okay. I didn't know if you got it or not. I wanted to make sure. If you guys didn't see the Angry Gnome sticker, it was kind of cool. It was a gnome flipping the bird. All right, how are we doing? Wow, we've been at it for an hour. Any more questions? So again, I'm here for you to answer your questions. I'm happy to give you a little bit more time, especially Eddie Wright. Eddie Wright, again, thank you. I haven't seen a question from you. So if you got one, buddy, drop one down below for me. I'd like to answer it for you. Absolutely. And that's kind of one of the things, guys, for those of you that pop up and throw those out, those super thankses and that kind of stuff, I want to make sure you get your questions answered. Do you recommend the Anchor Seal product for hardwood end grade? Yes, 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 and yes. And I also recommend it for softwoods. I know guys will say, you don't need to do it on pine or something like that. I Anchor Seal all my logs, and I try to do it as soon as I can. If they come down, they're dripping wet with sap, I might let them sit a little bit, but not very long. I want to Anchor Seal them as quickly as I can. I have found that even on ponderosa pine, and there's guys that have argued with me, you don't have to do it on ponderosa. Guess what? I've had ponderosa check badly when I didn't do it back in my LT10 days. So I ended up buying a 5-gallon bucket of Anchor Seal. And actually at that time, Bailey's used to sell a similar product at Bailey's online. and I had a 5-gallon bucket that I used up. And eventually I loaned it to a customer, potential customer. It ended up not milling for various reasons. And he left it out and got it dry on me, but it was down only about a quarter left anyway, so that's okay. So ever since I bought the gallon anchor seal, I've got them on my website. I usually put a link in the description of all my videos too. I do that frankly because it's good stuff, and I would absolutely use it, and I would use it as soon as possible. Some guys think they need to wait. Don't do it. Oh, have a good evening, Joe. Hey, thanks for being here, buddy. All right, let's see. And by the way, on the anchor seal, um, there was something else I was going to say about it here. Let me think about this a minute. Hang it. Oh, so the reason is that if you don't know this, the outside of the ends of the log, you've exposed all that wood, all those cells, they're going to dry really fast. And when they dry, they want to shrink. The problem is since the center of the log isn't shrunk, they pop and pull apart, and that's what splits your log. So that's why you want to anchor seal those. Let's see, Dean. I have the MP350 and kiln not set up yet, so I plan to sell lumber planed and kiln dried. Wow, awesome. Don't really know exactly what I'm doing yet though, but not going to sell rough sawn. Okay, well you could sell rough sawn, by the way, depending on what it is. I don't know that I would sell rough sawn hardwoods. But if you're getting into that business, that's a great business to be in. And I will tell you, and guys, understand, I'm going to recommend again that you go to Hobby Hardwoods, Alabama. Tell them I sent you over there. And here's the thing, YouTube's not a competition. So if you got a YouTube channel, Kilted Sawyer does, I will recommend other channels for a reason, because primarily a softwood guy. I'm a remote production sawyer. That's what I do. Robert Milton over at Hobby Hardwoods, he's an artist. And if you want to know how to make a living sawing up hardwoods, drying them and planing them and selling them, that's a guy that's doing it and doing it well. And I think he started on a LT40. He's got an LT70 now. He runs that LT70 like an artist. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Now, Jake Dean, he's a production sawyer. He's also an artist on an LT70. He does have a YouTube channel, but it's not very active. And that's called Custom Sawyer. The other guys that I know, like Peter Druin, those guys, there's so many out there. West Virginia Sawyer, there's so many of them. I can't tell you all their names. They're on Forestry Forum. So if you want to know about kiln drying, you want to know about planing, you want to know about timber framing, you want to know about forestry stuff, you want to identify wood, whatever it is. If you haven't gone to Forestry Forum, and again, they don't pay me, go check it out. You'll find me there. And those guys are awesome. But Robert Milton, he's Yellowhammer on Forestry Forum. I'm telling you right now, he is worth your weight in gold if you're doing a lot of hardwoods. That guy knows what he's doing. He used to do like pallet lumber and all that kind of stuff, and he hated it because he hated that kind of production sawing, which is a little different from what I'm doing. And what he was doing is he'd have customers say, I don't care, just get it done. He didn't care what he produced. In fact, he said at one point that one of his customers said, look, pallet wood is crap wood. I don't care what you produce. Those are crap logs. You can give me crap wood. Doesn't matter. And he was like, no, I'm not doing it. And he quit doing it. So Robert is very knowledgeable. So check him out. Absolutely do that. Dean, see if you can find a local course in lumber grading. Not a bad idea. Paper Country, when it comes to hardwoods, cabinet makers like the wood 5-4 when dried. There you go. There's a great answer. The cabinet door frames are 7/8 inch. If the wood is at 1 inch, it's hard to dress it to 7/8. Yes, very, very good point. And that's what I was kind of hesitating on a little bit for your answer earlier, because I don't do a lot of hardwoods. But I've always understood that it's an eighth over whatever it is your target is. So making it at 5/4 and an eighth would be considered 5/4 on hardwoods, is my understanding. Robert and all the ones you mentioned, Thomas O'Brien at TC. Yeah, and I used to watch him too, and then he moved. And I checked out a couple of his. Again, recently, I have such a hard time. So, and again, I'm hoping that I'm not working again soon. I'd like to go back to being retired, so I'm hoping that April 20th is that day. Crossing fingers. This was a great opportunity for me. I agreed to do it for a year at least, anyway, plus or minus depending. But then I found out that the contract was actually 2 6-month contracts. They have to decide whether they want to renew it for the second 6. And I thought, I really don't want them to. I want to go back to just doing what I'm doing. Then I'll have more time to do these videos. All right. Ran our frames through a drum sander, finished at 3/4 of an inch. There you go. Clay, hey, nice to see you. Craig's buddy, thanks. Oh, that's Dean. Yep, you bet. All right. What else we got, guys? We're bumping up. I'm happy to give you a few more minutes. Got any more questions? I haven't finished my Old Forester yet, so I've been talking too much. Check out my cool shirt. All right. What else we got? The laser's working. I fixed that. That video is coming out. It's not fully installed yet, but that one will come out. I'm actually working on another black locust, black walnut, maple video. And actually, that stuff is in Prescott, Washington, and I'll be milling there. Oh well, I won't be milling there because I'm not, this was filmed in the fall, but it'll be. Oh, I milled 3 days, and so if you don't know, on stuff that I produce, usually a video is anywhere from 1 to 3 logs, depending on the length of the video. I'm always trying to shoot, between 8 and 16 minutes. Usually 12 to 16 is better. And so it's all dependent on how much I can fit in that period of time. So, if I do 25, 30 logs or more, you can guess that's at least 25 or not 25, sorry, that's at least 7 to 10 videos, right? And then when I'm only putting them out once or twice a week, of course, it takes a little while. So we'll keep working on those. But I do want to slip in on a couple other things. Eddie, let's see what you got. Say hi, just subscribe. Hey, thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Lots of videos out there. So I think I've got over 150 long form videos. I believe it or not, guys, I'll tell you a little YouTube secret. I've done over 200. I want to say over 250. But if you ever get into trying to do YouTube videos, one of the things you learn is that you might have a video that did well 8 or 10 or 3 years ago or whatever, but it's not really a great video. And you really want to take it down, make it private, not really delete it, but take it private, because you don't want YouTube to share it if you're making better content at that point. So I do have videos that are currently not available because frankly they were terrible. My video, I have a video with 50,000 views, a long form video. It's about a 20-minute video. I filmed it with one Kodak 5 megapixel camera, and it was my first filming of a full log, and the camera died before I finished the whole log, but I still put the video out and I got 50,000 views. I took that one down. It's not a very good video. So okay, MP260 single phase unit and love it. That's awesome. Do you find that the YouTube shorts have helped your channel? No, not really. I kind of talked a little bit about that earlier. They helped and they didn't. So for those that are interested in the YouTube side of things, I'll give you a little bit of insight. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Subscriber count isn't actually relevant, other than you have to get to 1,000 in order to monetize. But you also have to have 4,000 watch hours, or today 10,000 short or 10 million shorts views in 90 days. Shorts they help if you want to be a shorts creator. So if your interest is making 22 to 32 second shorts, and there's a reason I say that time frame, then shorts, easy to build a channel, really easy to build one up and build it up fast. But shorts subscribers don't typically watch your longs. I find that about 1 in 3,200 views on a short translates into 1 view on a long form, and the views on the long form tends to be 1.5 minutes. So here's a question for you guys out there. Tell me, how many of you watch at least 50 to 60% of a video you start watching of my long form videos? I think I know the answer. I can tell you, while I see if you type it down there, the truth is on the shorts viewers, about 1 out of every 3,200, I did the math, watches typically between 30 seconds and a minute and a half of a long form video. So if you've got a 16-minute video and your shorts viewers are watching 30 seconds or a minute and a half, what happens is YouTube says, oh, the video is no good, I'm not going to share it. Even though maybe your long form video or your long form watchers watch the whole video. So shorts are like a dangerous game. They're kind of like crack. You try them and you're like, wow, I got 2,000, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, 200,000, a million views, 5 million views, 6 million views, but you watch your long form video content duration go down. So I've actually stopped making shorts. So it's great because you do get a lot of subscribers, but those subscribers are not you guys. I will bet you that maybe one of you, maybe two, has come over from shorts. Most aren't watching long format. Let's see, L Mancates. Interesting. Quick question. When using simple set, how do you get the same board thickness on the deck? Oh, I love that question. Do you use it in conjunction with the quarter scale? No quarter scale. I don't use my scale. Simple set will do it all for you. The trick with simple set is to remember that whatever you tell it to do, it's going to do it from where you start. So if you've got a 12-inch cant and you want to mill on the evens, I call that on the evens is where I'm going to set simple set to 1 inch or 2 inches or 3 inches. Those are on the evens. So let's say I want to mill 1 by 12s out of a 12-inch cant, and I'm going to mill them on the evens, so I'm really going to end up with 7/8 instead of 1 inch, okay? And there are reasons you might want to do that. I've done it many times. Math is easy, right? Except for here's the thing. You can't start at 12 inches. Because if you start at 12 inches and you go 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, all the way down and hit 1 inch, your last board will be 1 inch thick, not 7/8. So what you have to do is you have to account for that. So instead of starting at 12 inches, you start at 11 and 7/8, and then you go down. So if now I give you the example in the evens because that's the easiest example to give you, right? So earlier, Desert Hobo, maybe, no, somebody asked me for my spreadsheet, and that's why I built my spreadsheet. So, and there's a couple tricks to this. And again, I think I'm going to put it on my website, manlyportablemilling.com. I will try to get it up for you there. Oh, maybe by next weekend. I'll see if I can fix the website while I'm at it. And I think I'll try to put that up for you there. So what my spreadsheet is lots of guys had these before, back when I started milling. It would build spreadsheets and figure out height of your cant to start. So if I'm milling 1 5/8 to give an eighth over, in other words, I'm milling 1 3/4, and I'm going to leave an 1 5/8, and I'm doing that to give dimensional plus an eighth. Where do I start? And how do I end up at 1 5/8 when I'm done? And if you watched, there's a video out there from, oh gosh, let's see, what's this, 2023? So this would have been 2016. So about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, there's a video out there, red umbrella on top with a bunch of white PVC holding it up. And I think the video was a little trick goes a long ways or something like that. And in that video, what I was showing was how I had my mill tilted a certain way so that when I hit the back switch, the head would roll back on its own while I hauled the slabs off. In that video, I was milling log after log after log after log and setting my cant height and width and then going bump, 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 bump off the deck. Bump, 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 bump off the deck. How did I do that? I did it with spreadsheets. And what you do with your spreadsheet is you just have to figure out if you're milling 1 3/4, and you could do it on a scrap piece of paper. Some guys can do it in their heads. Sometimes I can. But you figure out if you're doing 1 3/4 to leave you an 1 5/8, all you got to do is figure how many boards minus 1/8 of an inch. So let's say you've got a cant that can give you 4 1 3/4 cuts, which would be 4 1 5/8 boards. All you got to do is say, set my simple set to 1 3/8, or sorry, 1 3/4. But if I go and chunk down, I'm going to be 1/8 of an inch over here. I just got to start 1/8 of an inch lower up here. So by setting it up on a spreadsheet, which again, I'll put it on my website. It helps you see it a little better. And you can go in and build it with 2 inch, 1 inch, 1 3/4 inch, whatever you want. And all you got to do, and how I built mine on the spreadsheet is I put the height of the board I wanted left over, and then my kerf, which is 1/8 of an inch. So I'd have a line for 1/8 of an inch and a line for 1 inch or 2 inches or whatever, or inch and a half or whatever. And then you just run that down your spreadsheet and get to the bottom and then add one more board. So in other words, I would go inch and three or inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch, and no extra eighth. And that's the key. That's what gets most people is they forget the last cut. You almost, another way of thinking about it is you almost have to think in reverse. Think from the bottom up, right? So if I start at an inch from the bottom, because I want 1 inch boards, exactly 1 inch, then I have to come up an inch and an eighth. So I need a 2 1/8 inch thickness to get those two boards split into two 1 inch boards. Does that make sense? So 1 inch, 1 inch, eighth in the middle. So I start at an inch and I go inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth, inch and an eighth. There I am. And if you do that in a spreadsheet, then what you can do, and here's a trick. So I'm going to share a little trick with you. Take a Sharpie. I do this, and you could see it when I pan on my, go watch my videos. If you watch a video where I pan and I show you my control panel, you'll see this now after I tell you this little secret. You will see written on my cover for my simple set in Sharpie dimensions. That's the trick, because I mill so many different sizes that I forget. I can't remember if I'm doing inch and an eighth, or if I'm doing on the evens, or if I'm milling for 5/8, so I'm milling at 3/4 of an inch, or if I'm milling at 2 inches, or an inch and 7/8, or an inch and 3/4, right? By the time you got all of those in your head, you start to forget what the hell you're doing. I don't mill the same dimension all the time. So I write it down. I know what they are, and I'll go and I'll write them down, 9 3/8, 10 and a half, whatever, and I'll write it across the deck. So I know one line is my height and one line is my width. Most of them are washed out because I rarely write them anymore, because I know where to go now. But that's what I did for several years. I would write those, I would rewrite them, and I would just put it right on there so that I knew right away after using my spreadsheet that if I started at 9 3/8 of an inch, I would end up at 1 5/8 of an inch off the deck. And that's the trick. Now, a lot of guys will say they use their scale for that. I don't, because as I mentioned earlier on, I don't want to mess with my scale. I don't have time. I've got simple set. Why do I want to use the scale? As long as I know where my start points are and I have my width and my height, I know where I need to be depending on the log that I have. I can just go boom, 9 3/8 by whatever, and away I go. Split her in half, start knocking her down. Another video coming out soon though is odds are better than even. So keep that in mind for splitting cants. All right, let's see what I missed during all that going on up here. Let's see. Do you use? Okay, hopefully I answered that question for you, Mancates. Eddie Wright, I'm watching to learn, not just for entertainment or distraction, so I end up watching most of long form videos. Awesome, and thank you. I think that's the case. Wife says dinner is ready, gotta go. All right, Skookum, we'll see you, buddy. Absolutely. Was me asking for the spreadsheet. Okay, gotcha. Send me an email. I'll get it to you. All right, let's see. Being new to sawing, that 1/8 got me too until I fixed my spreadsheet. Yep, there you go. That's the trick. Nice. That helps a lot. You bet. All right, guys, look, we've been going for almost an hour and a half. I'll give you one last question, and then I think it's time for me to go and finish my old Forester and call it a night. One more. That's it. That's what I got for you. Who's got one? Anything. YouTube, cameras, sawmilling, cabin stuff, why the heck I do this, where you can get this cool shirt. Going once. I still got 9 of you sitting there watching me, so I'm waiting for somebody to type something down. I don't want to go without making sure, so I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. And let's see, what else do I have before I go? So Eddie, it looks like you're taking off. You bet. Thanks again for that super sticker or super chat, whichever it was. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Um, all right. Well, I'm working on lots more content. I don't believe I'm going to have one out this Tuesday. I usually try to get one Tuesdays and Fridays. I have a feeling this week it's going to be Friday only because of work, and I'm deep into editing the next video. I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to make it a little bit longer because, as I mentioned, my camera died. So it's either going to be a little shorter or a little longer. I haven't really decided yet, but well, it didn't die. The funny thing is I threw something and it hit it and it tilted down. So you can't really see what I'm doing in one camera. You get to see the other one, but that's the one that you see the blade enter and exit the log. And that's it. So I'll try to get that out. Yeah. All right. Listen, guys, thanks. It's been fun. I'm going to let y'all go. I will try to do another one of these, but it probably will be about 3 weeks. Got to go to the cabin and got something going on next weekend. So probably about 3 weeks before I do another one. But stick around. Keep an eye on the channel. I'll have more content coming out soon. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great night. The old Jarhead out.